In the Korean conflict, I got in the Korean conflict in the Army.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't have a year's service in World War II. And there I am. In 1950, when the Korean War started, I got a draft notice. And I went down to the draft board and I said, well, you're not drafting World War II veterans. He said, no, we're not. But you didn't have a year's service. But I said, well, I'm in a Naval Reserve. I just activate me. Well, we don't need a Navy. So I didn't argue, and the next thing I'm in Korea.
No. Oh, no kidding.
I could have got out of it because at Fort Riley, Kansas, being the first draftee, they didn't have enough cadre to handle all the new troops coming in. And the officers found out I was a beggar.
Oh,
That's where I got drafted from. So when the other guys were out playing the guns in the dark, I went and made apple turnovers and cookies and pies for the officers. So they offered me, what am I in? I'm in the Army just a month, Master Sergeant, if I would run the mess hall. And I said, no, I'm in with some guys, and that was the bad thing. As a matter of fact, they went alphabetically in the barracks, and my next guy was from Minneapolis, and he just graduated with a degree in accounting. And they were hard up. He put up his hand, and I was standing right there as a witness. They made him a first lieutenant right on the spot. He stayed there in Kansas, and I could have stayed there. I could have worked in the bakery in Korea too. To see if you were in the rear area, you got 1 point a month, and on the front line you got 3.
What is a point worth?
Oh, when they had, I think, 21 of them, you got out of there.
Oh.
So I just as soon went there.
Yeah. Wow.
I called it the swamp. I remember I was a squad leader, and I had a second lieutenant from the Rock Army, the Royal Order of Korea. He has an interpreter. He had a big bunch of degrees. He spoke Chinese and North Korean. And I told him one day, I said, but I wouldn't give you 35 cents for the whole country. And I said, furthermore, Sigmund Rhee's a crook. And they finally figured that out, you know. Yeah, they were really backward, that country. And we put in roads, they were engineers, and got them right up to date.
But you did combat too in Korea, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I was. I think I was in the 25th Division, the Lightning Division out of Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I was in the 27th Regimental Combat Team, and we're called the Wolfhounds. And I believe we set a record on the front line of 84 straight days.
Wow.
Usually you go up for a month or so, and then you go back and you get relieved. And yeah, and that made me mad because while we were up there, we were entitled to 3 cans of beer. The guys sold them when we were on us. And I got a combat infantryman. I got all kinds of medals, but they don't do no good.
Nah, they're nice.
Want a picture of them?
Yeah.
The colonel told me with that Bronze Star you could get a cup of coffee for a dime in the U.S. Where do you get a cup of coffee for a dime now?
Yeah. Let's see.
Bronze Star, what's that for?
That's for valor.
Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah.
It is. He was a machine gun.
So this is World War II vet. Okay, so you got the Bronze Star, and what's the other two?
The most important thing for an infantryman
That's out of
is
focus.
this is a combat infantry badge. And you have to survive 30 days on the front line to get one.
Oh,
A lot of people don't make it,
I can imagine not.
especially religious people.
Yeah.
When I was a squad leader, and I did get behind them when they're attacking a hill,
Yeah.
and I would holler at them and holler, shoot, because I could see the enemy coming up. And I had to follow behind this company of men and holler at them and threaten them with my bayonet.
Wow, because they
And
wouldn't.
if they didn't shoot, I had to shoot. But you see, when you're new, it's like anything else.
Yeah.
Get off that first shot, and then you might make it.
Wow.
Experience, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I use this for the parade.
Oh, okay.
That's a Liberty ship.
Okay.
Like we just saw.
U.S. Merchant Marine veteran. So you're a veteran of the Merchant Marine, the Navy, and
the Army. Now,
the
the
Army.
Merchant Marine, I got an honorable discharge from the Coast Guard
Oh.
because they do the Merchant Marine.
Oh. Okay.
All your Merchant
All right.
Marine officers are Coast Guard.
Okay.
officers,
So
yeah.
technically, you weren't in the Coast Guard, though, or
No,
were you?
They were in charge.
Oh,
Like
I
the
see.
Marines are in charge. The Navy's in charge of the Marines.
Oh, okay.
I got more than this, but there's not room.
Yeah, well, it's-
And the reason they give things for valor, it's a funny thing, but they're all trained. But now, I've never been a group player. I've never been a team player. I've always been an individual. And when things happen, I know what to do. And when I get up with my claustrophobia, I'll charge. When these guys will lay there and wait for somebody. And that's why they give them, like Audie Murphy. He had to get up and lead.
Yeah.
That's why you lose second lieutenants. I went through 22 of them. So I'm against wars.
Sure.
Oh, they're terrible. I mean, World War II, we had to go. Korea, after World War II, the Russians were gaining 5 miles a day, raping and plundering. And they had to be stopped. And that's where we decided to stop them. And we licked the North Korean army. They were annihilated. That would have been over, but the Chinese came in.
Oh, that's what it was.
See, and then we had to deal with that. And I guess like Vietnam, it was political, and the professors, everybody was. They didn't get any backing. Okay, now got a UN medal. We were the UN, and they had so many rules, not like in World War II, but like in Vietnam. Before we could attack a hill, that's all it was mountains. We had to tell the UN. Well, they had Chinese delegates to the UN. The enemy's waiting for you.
Oh my God.
No, they're waiting. They're already all set up, and then so. Yeah, it's not good.
That was not a good experience at all.
And like I said, Bud told me when I was as a leader, I had to take my men. I had 14 men, and I had to take them to where we were going. And I had a compass on my thumb you used. And I asked Bud one day, I said, Bud, we're taking this hill up here, and I always see a pick and shovel on that hill. And what's this all about? And he smiled, and he says, on the 38th parallel, where we were going, 65% of the world's tungsten comes from the 38th parallel, and you have to have it to make steel. Why do you suppose we stopped there?
See, we moved there in,
Then I started to age, and it took me a long time to see the circle. And then I say, and I'm in the swamp with dysentery, and in the winter, these guys at Panmunjom are spending weeks arguing on what size the table should be while I'm freezing to death. I said, why am I here?
and then the hospital was
And
the one.
here's one thing I learned. When we're out in the field, when the captain said we're going to stay here for the night, I would dig a foxhole, and then he'd say, no, I don't like this spot, after I dug a foxhole. So I always waited till the captain dug his first, then I would dig mine. That's the things to learn. Now, when I was young, I thought I was Errol Flynn. You know, and indestructible. And when the captain would holler, charge the hill, be aggressive, Stein, I would do it. Today, if you said that, I'm right behind you, sir. So then, you know, you get a little older, you get a little wiser. Hopefully. When the monsoon came, Bill Poppin and I were sharing a foxhole. I bailed out 90 helmets of water, and he did the same. And then we gave up and just laid there in our waist in the water, up to our waist in the water. Well, when they have they usually have a pre-dawn attack. The enemy, of course, like I say, they know they're coming. They throw you in a truck, crabby and half awake, and then you go bouncing down the road, no lights, you don't know where you're going. Then all of a sudden the brakes squeak and you get out of this truck. And like I say, then I was getting out where these truck drivers know where we're going, where they're going to dump so many guys. And then the spot where we were at, there's my Captain Bodgen in a tank. Chicago lawyer. He's in a tank. So then it starts to get light, and the colonel of our regiment, he's getting nervous because he sent out a scout. What are you hearing from the scout? What are you hearing from the scout? Well, I don't know, he went to the bathroom or something.
Yeah, we drove by.
Well, what are we going to do? Send out another scout, he said. He said no.
And,
move out.
It looks like, you can't
So
tell
then,
by looks, there's
now I was in behind the big skirmish line, and I'm a leader.
Yeah, no, there's still.
And I have the machine gun squad, which isn't needed.
But it looks
Then when
like
you get across an open field,
port,
maybe a half a mile,
on
wide
top of
open,
the porch.
the tanks open up, the artillery opens up, they got quad 50s, and all this is coming over your head. And you're moving ahead, and you're trying to pull up 172 pounds into your helmet. And lucky I was on the
Have you ever gone up?
end of this line, because down the enemy starts seeing the troops coming across the field, and the mortars come in. Then the parts start to fly. And then you keep advancing, and then some guys break and run.
No.
That's a no-no. And I learned about, because my friend was half Indian, and I used to go to the reservation, and the Indians always says that battle never turn your back.
Yeah.
So I advance. Then you get to the bottom of the hill if you make it. And then you got to fight from trench to trench, bayonet.
And rented it out.
And you haven't lived until you jump in a trench and shove a bayonet in the man's chest. Then you have to twist it because there's suction, or you can't get it out. And maybe somebody's coming after
Well,
you.
I figured.
And if there's nobody, you got to look in his eyes and wait. And if they're not shutting,
We had people come
Oh.
to
now you carry that guilt the rest of your life, or you should. You know, maybe some guys don't. And then move on to the next trench. And then someday it takes all day to get to the top of that mountain.
That's the point.
And then the
You might
enemy will
find.
always counterattack.
But that's-
And then they'll chase you down, and then you start over. And this is,
That's what Korea was like
yeah,
all,
that
all
was
the time.
Yeah, all the time in the mountains. Not all the time, a lot of
That
waiting.
is really
Oh,
scary. Well,
yeah.
And straightening out, and you spend a lot of time
this winter back
in a foxhole.
in Bill's backyard.
And just waiting to what's happening. You don't know what's going on.
Years I could figure out he was talking.
Somebody, we hope, knows what's going on
He asked
back
me if
there.
he
You hope.
gunshots, police came.
A lot of times they say, well, there's nobody up there. When you get up there, there's somebody up waiting.
He said
That's that UN deal,
Mm.
Yes.
So the UN actually had jurisdiction over all troops
That's
in
right. You
Korea?
couldn't do nothing. And same in Vietnam. They were held back. Our troops never lost a major battle in Vietnam, but they didn't have backing
But this
They
is
couldn't
much
bomb
safer area than
ahead.
Oh, I
and
see.
things like that. See, and that's the restrictions. It wasn't quite that
I'm not
bad in
sure
Korea.
about 11th Avenue. Well, I don't know. That's an iffy one. I think
Yep,
there's
amoebic
some-
dysentery, and you had all that stuff.
I'm not sure. But any further west, it's not safe. Like one of the-
Because I was a squad leader, and we're having everybody, the medics and everybody, were in the rear because something was going on in the office. I was left in charge of the company. Beautiful Sunday, the sun's shining, and there was a minefield in front of us.
But he wanted
And the
to-
captain, when he left, says, make sure them guys don't monkey in that minefield. So, come afternoon, and then somebody hollered down the line, when you got a company of men, they could be spread out a half a mile.
I wouldn't mind going back.
Each foxhole, Somebody said, I think the enemy's coming. Oh gosh, here I am. Everybody's gone. And I had binoculars, so I'm looking up there, and I says, nah, I hollered, pass the word down, hold your fire. Because it looked like civilians to me. And it turned
Well,
out to be,
he
but
always thought,
all of a sudden they kept going closer and closer.
Since I've
And
been retired,
all of a sudden, some goofball up there opens fire. They said, give them the command, don't fire. And then a little girl and her little brother
yes.
got up
And
close to
there
my
was a lot
minefield.
of good-
And they're little people, Koreans. And the little boy, he got, from that goofball, this arm was hanging. And the little girl was screaming and hollering. Oh God, what am I going to do now? And I'm in charge. So I stripped down, took my helmet off, and got the t-shirt and everything. And
Because
they had what they call bouncing betties. And you trip a wire. And then it would shoot up and then open up, and the shrapnel would come down on you. So I said, all I got to do is something. So I was in good shape then, light, amoebic dysentery. I'd lost a lot of weight. I ran out there and I didn't trip a wire. And then I figured, I better take that same path back. So I grabbed the little girl and the little boy, one under each arm, and I said, okay, ran back, and we made it.
Wow.
And then I got some guys that were there was a bunch of guys down behind the line there, but they had these half tracks, and they took the kids to the hospital. But you run into things like that. Now, what do the kids do? Nothing like that. I think they probably could attach that arm, you know. A little arm, you know, looks bad. Well, worse than it is. The civilians, and then before you attack a town, I remember in the evening with the beautiful sunset, and here comes all these people down the road fleeing the town, and they got to leave everything, and you know, it's just
Yeah.
now they're doing pretty good, South Koreans.
Oh, yeah.
But I was on we used to go out on patrol on top of a tank, and we went on a patrol right up to Pyongyang. I've got a picture of it I gave to the museum. That's the capital of North Korea now. And I was on, I think, the 7th tank. Well, the enemy would come down the road. We didn't know they were there, and they knocked out the first 3 with bazookas. And then we had a tank that had a white flamethrower. And they were in this cave, and he put the gun right in that cave. But I jumped off, and I got a picture of it because the tank I was on wanted to back out. On this narrow road, there was a big bank there. And at that time, I had the machine gun. And he said, jump up. Well, I had all my equipment. I had 3 extra pack sack and 3 extra barrels and that. And he started to back up, and he was going to run over me so he could get out of there. Well, one of my guys pulled me up just in time, that tank. Well, Bob Vermillion, the war correspondent, he took a picture of that.
Oh, really?
So I got that in there.
Of you being pulled up?
Yeah, I've got the history of the 25th Regiment.
Oh.
And I gave it to the depot where they got the World War, the things there.
Down here at the depot in Duluth?
Yeah, I donated that. I wished I hadn't. I'd like to keep it. Because if I told somebody I was in Pyongyang, the capital, well, I had the proof, you know.
Yeah.
So we couldn't move the
Okay.
company. We're in this valley, and they got a bunker up here, and it's don't try to move. So we called for a 57 recoilless rifle team. Now everybody knows what a bazooka is, a tube. But a 57 recoilless has riflings, telescopic sight. It fires a self-propelled shell. So this team finally is showing up, and I could see them coming over there, and they had to sneak around, and then finally the enemy picked them up. So my job is I had to keep, every time the enemy would stick their heads up there, see the bunker's got sod roof and just a window. I would fill that window full of lead.
Okay.
So they couldn't shoot these guys. We needed these guys, you know.
Yeah.
Until finally so I couldn't take my eyes off that window. And I couldn't know what these guys are doing. But you have a gunner and a loader. Now when he got into position, he has to stand up to fire this thing.
Now, you said self-propelled, so it's like a missile almost?
Yeah, just a bazooka. Yeah,
Oh.
it's half powder and it's very powerful.
Oh, okay.
Accurate to 2,400 yards
Wow.
with this telescope. So I'm watching doing my job. Now, when he got into position, I had to make sure that I'm firing up there. Then the loader opens the door, he shoves his shell in there. He's got a pack sack with these shells. Then he shuts the door and there's electrical, sets it off. Then he looks behind because there's flame in the blast for over 100 feet. And then he taps the gunner on the helmet, ready. Well, he didn't do that, and I was back there. And I got hit in this side of the head, and it knocked me over.
Oh.
And this ear, tendonitis, it rings all the time. It'd drive you nuts if you thought about it.
Yeah.
And it's death, but it's ringing right now. But you'll learn if you want to survive that not to do that. So I get 10% on that, and I get some money and stuff. But and then that ringing, I went to the main VA down there in Minneapolis, and this neurologist or whatever she was, she said, well, the treatment's worse than the ringing. I said, okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
But yeah, that recoilless rifle is quite accurate, and the thing is, also is a bazooka close range.
Close range meaning 100 yards?
Yeah,
Couple
or
hundred
just
yards.
little thing.
Yeah.
But this thing has really got a whack. There's nothing left when they hit that thing.
Wow.
Or you use it on a tank.
Yeah.
Because they would make an armor-piercing shell, which costs a little more money. Used even with the bazooka, in my squad I had a 3.5. and that had a special shell
So,
for a
several
tank.
years ago,
Hmm.
I just was
Or also when you came into a town, if you wanted to knock the big door off the bank's vault to see what's in there. But then the lieutenant would make you want to pay $105. He's going to take out of your pay if you had shot it. For something to do, you know. You got to be careful.
I don't know.
Now your Bronze Star, that's the highest award you got, right?
Yeah, the thing is, it's the Medal of Honor, and then there's the Distinguished Service Cross, Silver Star, then Bronze Star.
Okay. And what action did you get the Bronze Star for?
Well, I knocked out 2 bunkers.
Oh, you did?
I had to charge them because we were pinned down.
Oh, okay.
And they killed 2 of my men. And I was young and in good shape then, and I had to take off my pack set, my helmet, and strip down. And then I had to run right into the machine gun. But I kept like hiding back there. See, growing up in the woods here, you learn to live in the woods and stuff. But a guy from LA or New York wouldn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I had 4 grenades I took. See, when you go into a combat situation, you've got a pin on your hand grenades. But you loosen the cotter thing on there so it could slip easy. So I got up and then I got alongside of them. They were shooting, but they couldn't get me because I'd jump behind rocks and stuff. And then when I got up alongside of them, then I had to run. I pulled a pin. You got 6 seconds. And then I ran. I pulled 2 pins. Then when I ran by their window, I threw them in there. And then pulled 2, ran to the other one. And hand grenades are very effective. Even if they don't get shrapnel, they get concussion.